If you're here to improve this, then forgive me for giving you a raised eyebrow. For me? Oh my god. I love her. So what else are you at? Huh. So I guess I just have you now? Weren't you already here? A year after the release of Sonic Mania, we were greeted with the announcement of Sonic Mania Plus, a DLC containing a full new game mode, 2 new playable characters who haven't seen the light of day since 1993 and 1995 respectively, and upgrading the 2-player versus to 4-player versus. Alongside the DLC would be a physical release and an art book. Now, as for the existing game, it got a massive overhaul setting it apart from its 2017 release. New menus, bug fixes galore, and new transitions between levels were added. Fans had noted it was odd some levels had transitions between each other while others just fade to black. It's cool to see how Sonic and Co travel from one level to another. But the most jarring change was the Metal Sonic boss fight. Previously in the final phase of the boss, you need to outrun a big wall of spikes, kind of akin to Eggman's laser in Sonic CD, while fighting a fully charged up Metal Sonic. Also kind of akin to his fight in Sonic 4, how about that? But after the update, instead when you get to this phase, Metal Sonic absorbs the Phantom Ruby and goes full Kaiju mode, in reference to Knuckles Chaotix and Sonic Heroes, which fans got to see before the DLC release because PlayStation accidentally dropped the update early. So I'd say that's a pretty full-on follow-up. Now, a little under a year ago, I made a video about Sonic Origins, a collection of the classic series comprised of ports from the mobile remasters and a brand new remaster of Sonic 3 and Knuckles, all of which certainly left a lot to be desired. A while back, rumours started spreading that Origins would be getting the Plus treatment too, and when it was finally announced, hopes were high for a Mania-style overhaul because, well gosh, it was certainly needed. But with Sega's track record in the past few years, fans were skeptical to say the least. When Plus was announced, there was a big emphasis on Amy joining as a playable character, who was never playable in the classic era at all unless you count the spin-offs such as Sonic Drift, R, and The Fighters. I can just imagine the comments now. Remember when the Origins announcement said new playable characters, and there weren't, and then later versions of the screen removed that? See? They were right all along! Yeah, sure they were. For the most part in the series, she's been more known in her modern incarnation. A notable playable appearance is in the Sonic Advance series, a sort of love child of the classic gameplay and adventure style. And while the main trio is usually Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, in recent years following Sonic Boom, she's kind of infiltrated the group, and I think most of us are happy to have her, especially now she and the other 3 are starring in the upcoming 4-player Sonic Superstars. Another addition of the DLC is the inclusion of all the Game Gear games, which have all been previously included as a bonus in Sonic Mega Collection, Sonic Gems Collection, and even Sonic Adventure DX. Older versions of Sonic Adventure DX because the 2011 releases for Xbox 360, PS3, and Steam just don't have them. Now getting to Origins itself, let's see what's changed in the 2.0.0 update. Opening the game up now greets you with a new Sonic Team logo, just like in Frontiers. On the title screen, opening up the manual is like a PDF format instead of presenting you with a QR code for your phone. Could we have both? I know I laughed at this last time, but I think it'd just be neat. Actually, the old QR code still works, if you have access to it. Sonic 1 and 2 had something called roll lock, meaning when you jump after rolling it prevents you from changing direction mid-air, which restricts the newly implemented drop dash. The roll lock was later removed in the latest update, so less accurate for Sonic 1 and 2, but no big issue. Properties of various objects such as springs have been altered to be less buggy, new areas have been added to Sonic CD to accommodate Knuckles, and speaking of Knuckles, when you choose him in Sonic 2, the color palette of the HUD is now altered to be like Sonic 2 and Knuckles. And they fixed the layering in the launch base cutscene that was previously restored. Good, that was bothering me. Plus a whole lot more altered properties of things in each game for bug fixing reasons. So not a Mania scale overhaul, but a welcome set of updates nonetheless. Anyway, heading over to the Switch eShop, Sonic Origins Plus, and it's $16. A bit more than I was expecting, considering Sonic Mania Plus is currently sitting on sale at $3. Anyway, bought the DLC because, you know, would probably be disappointing if this video didn't happen. Back to the game, and oh hey, you can see Amy and Knuckles have appeared on the islands next to everyone else. Wait a minute. How am I doing this? I didn't buy the extras pack. So turns out the Origins Plus expansion includes the previous extra fun pack and music pack bundled in, which explains the price, and there appears to be no discount if you already bought them. Phew, good thing I didn't want them last year.
Oh hell yes, Sonic Origins Plus, here we go. You've gotta be kidding me.
But hey, now you can observe the islands, and the character animations are fun to watch. You have a bunch of new borders and can listen to music from other games, thankfully with correct labels this time. Under the Mission Island, we have two new options, Game Gear and Surprise. In Surprise, there are puzzle pieces of an artwork that you can unlock piece by doing tasks such as destroy a Metal Sonic hologram as Amy, or make a good future as Knuckles, and destroy the Eggman statue. Doing so reveals this neat piece of artwork of Sonic's birthday with his pals. Ain't that cute? And completing it grants you cheat codes in the tutorial. And, oh, it's just the codes that let you into debug menus. A surprise indeed for those who didn't know about them, but probably not for everyone who already knew. Watch my video, it's pretty cool. Now let's take a look at the Game Gear games. All are listed in this little menu, and when some people were granted early access to these games online, I noticed an empty void surrounding the game screen, and the sound quality was... ow. Thankfully, on actual release, they now have the 4x3 borders. Hey, that's weird. Games with 2 player modes have them as different game selections entirely. That's weird. In the game's menus, multiplayer modes are grayed out. Starting up the game and... The start button isn't the start button. Oh, I'm sorry. The X button is the start button. Why does X start the game instead of start? That's just really confusing! Selecting the 2-player mode of these games opens with 2 screens side by side and prompts a second controller to be connected. I see what they're going for here, but we can declutter this a lot by removing the 2-player versions of the games from the game selection, and instead of the regular versions having 2-player mode grayed out, you can have it so that selecting the 2-player mode launches the second game screen from within the game itself, and not the game selection screen. You know, kinda makes more sense that way. Overall, all these games look and play pretty well, but the sound is a little bit iffy. Mostly sounding alright, with some sounds screeching up your ear. It's great to have a modern way to play these classic games, and while I ain't convincing you Sonic Labyrinth is worth your time, games like Sonic Triple Trouble definitely are. Sonic Triple Trouble was my first classic Sonic game, and I still love it. It's just as fun as the main games. Probably not a response to mods doing it effortlessly, but you never know. After not being in the base release of Origins, Knuckles has been added to Sonic CD as a playable character, and functions, well, exactly as you expect. He's Knuckles in Sonic CD. Also, how did I never notice that this bit at the beginning of Palmtree Panic is supposed to be a perspective shift and you're running inside a loop this whole time? I just thought you were running up in a straight line. Shockingly, with Knuckles being in CD, you'd think they'd add him with the 2.0.0 update since he's already in every other game, but no, he's exclusive to the Plus DLC. That's very odd, but I guess since he wasn't there in the original release, an addition this big, they probably thought content-wise should be added to Plus. Some fans theorized everything in Plus was meant to be part of the original release but was held off so it could be sold back to you later, but this was shut down by Tyson Hess on Twitter, adding that Amy's screen time in the ending was in reference to the in-development Sonic Superstars. But speaking of the girl of the hour, let's talk about Amy. In all 4 games she has a smaller jump ball than Sonic, but the range can be extended with her hammer like an insta-shield, and holding down the jump button charges the hammer attack, which is pretty much a reskinned drop dash. She's different from how she is in Sonic Advance, but still fits in line with the other characters in Origins, with her hammer being included without overcomplicating things, and objects that are normally breakable by Knuckles' fists break when they make contact with her hammer's hitbox. And in the opening of Sonic 3, Tails drops her off in a tornado. At least she wasn't expected to jump off a moving plane like Sonic. Oh yeah, and when you go looking for her on the character select, you're in for a surprise. I was very critical of how it was in the last video, but I'm happy to say it's been completely overhauled. Instead of each character being its own save file, you get to choose the character for each save file, with brand new UI for selecting one of the 4, but underneath each of them is a plus button like in the mobile versions. Selecting it allows you to choose any of the remaining 3 as your partner character. It's well designed, it isn't cluttered, and once you've beaten the save, you can choose any level you want, and come on, you know I'm making this up. up. It's just as bad as it was before, but even more cluttered now Amy's been added to it. And when you open Sonic 2, jeez! That is just ugly. There could be dozens of ways to simplify this, but this design is what you went with? Single characters and characters partnered with Tails all clumped together on one screen? Sonic 1 weirdly doesn't show partner characters, just the 4 on their own, even though you can choose partners in the debug menu. But Sonic 3 doesn't use this at all since it has its own file select screen, which begs the question, why didn't they adapt the other 3 games to use a similar setup? Because it's already like that on both mobile and especially Mania. I said this last time, but I don't like how they combined characters and save files, and that beating a game brings you back to the final bosses instead of giving you the stage select at your leisure. And they still exist in Origins left over from the mobile versions. You can still access that screen from Sonic 1 by bypassing the final boss using a capsule or a sign to end the level by skipping the credits, and it's here. It works. It feels so foolish to remove it. You can even replay levels in Sonic 3. Why shouldn't you be allowed to do that in Sonic 1 and 2? Sonic 2, you'd have a reason for using it, going back and collecting the Chaos Emeralds you missed and replaying any level you want with Super Sonic, but you can't do that! Unlike Sonic 1, bypassing the final boss brings you to Hidden Palace, which then brings you to Oil Ocean, so it's a closed loop. And sadly, no, they did not restore Proto Palace, it remains exclusive to the mobile version. Now in the debug menus, new character slots have been added. 00 is still Sonic and Tails, 01 is still Sonic, 02 Tails, 03 Knuckles, 04 still has Sonic on the title screen and demo gameplay, but you play as Amy when you select a level, and 05 is basically the same but with Tails added. Seemingly no custom title screen for her. It should probably be noted in Sonic Origins, the title screen plays before you choose a character, and once you do you're thrown into a level, so it's less likely you'll see the custom title screens. In Sonic 2's debug menu, characters are represented by icons instead of numbers. Amy and Amy with Tails have been added, and Sonic 3's works the same as Mania, where you can scroll through characters by pressing Y and pair them with Tails by pressing X, which only works for Sonic and Amy. Don't know why you can't pair Tails with Knuckles like you can in Sonic 2. Not even Mighty and Ray can be paired with Tails in Mania. You need to enable and Knuckles mode to get Knuckles as a partner for anyone, and that's not even accessed through the debug menu. It'd be pretty cool if Amy was in Mania too, although it's kind of funny how her inevitable playability was foreshadowed by a fan trailer for Mania Plus. Actually, there were 2, come to think of it. Playing as her in Sonic CD doesn't have any Super Luigi Galaxy shenanigans, just something really amusing about Eggman running for dear life from classic Amy. It's pretty cool to see all the new sprites for not just the main gameplay, but also in the styles of each special stage too. Oh, what's going on here for Sonic 2? Is she missing sprites? Nope, it's just an overlooked bug. Still, cool to see new sprites drawn from scratch. Not even Knuckles got that courtesy, because in Sonic 2, his head is from the sprite of Sonic and Knuckles, just placed on top of the body of Sonic. In Sonic 2 and Knuckles, his arms aren't even red. Once you see it, you can't ever unsee it. Though I do remain impressed that in the 90s they made Sonic 2 and Knuckles work. They didn't have to find a way to make the lock-on card compatible with a game that had already been out for 2 years, but my god they found ways to patch assets from Sonic and Knuckles into Sonic 2. Sonic CD now has brand new sprites for Knuckles in the special stages. Now let's talk about super forms. Sonic 2 added Super Sonic as a bonus for collecting the 7 Chaos Emeralds, with very obvious inspiration from Super Saiyan Goku, which debuted several months earlier. Tails, despite also being playable, does not get a super transformation even if all the emeralds are collected, which carries consistent to Sonic 3. In Sonic and Knuckles, Knuckles is granted a super form just like Sonic when all the emeralds are collected. When both games are combined into Sonic 3 and Knuckles, all stays the same, but with an addition. After finishing the Sonic 3 half of the game, you are introduced to the concept of Super Emeralds. Giving up the Chaos Emeralds to the Master Emerald upgrades them to Super Emeralds, and you have to complete another set of special stages to awaken them. And once you do, your super form is upgraded into a hyper form. Hypersonic is one of the most intense and beloved transformations in the series, but Sonic 3K is the only game it ever appeared in. Instead of yellow, his body flashes the entire spectrum of the rainbow while covered in large sparks and leaves an after image as he moves, with a dash attack that destroys all badniks on screen. And Hyper Knuckles has the same properties, though not looking too different from his super counterpart. But this time, Tails isn't left hanging. With the Chaos Emeralds doing nothing, the Super Emeralds grant him a golden form of his own, which he shares with several Flickies, who attack anything that moves with no mercy, implying that any character who doesn't naturally have a super form can be granted one by the Super Emeralds. Skipping to 2017's Sonic Mania, the Super Emeralds and the Hyper Forms were intended to return, with the assets left unused in the game's files, but supposedly Takashi Iizuka was against it. After all, in an interview he claimed Hypersonic wasn't canon and just a bonus if you lock on Sonic 3 and Knuckles. But that may no longer be the case with things that Sonic Team shifted about lore-wise for all we know. As for Sonic Mania, the Super Emeralds make a cameo in Knuckles' LavaReef boss alongside the Master Emerald Shrine, and show us that after Sonic 3K, the Emeralds returned to being chaos and left behind these cracked stone husks. That's a pretty cool detail. Now in Sonic Mania, as expected, Sonic and Knuckles retain their super forms, but so does Tails. I suppose they did this for gameplay reasons. I guess it would suck to collect all the Emeralds and get nothing for it. Super Tails this time round lacks the death flickies. As a matter of fact, he first appeared like this in the mobile versions of Sonic 1 and 2 via debug mode, and when Mighty and Ray were added as DLC, they got the same equal opportunity as Tails did, but they all kinda look off. They don't really look super, they just kind of pulse brighter with sparkles. Circling back to Sonic Origins, last time I neglected to mention they changed Tails' transformation in the remaster of Sonic 3 and Knuckles. They included the version of Super Tails without the flickies by collecting all the Chaos Emeralds, and now the original Super Tails with the flickies has been renamed Hyper Tails. I don't know how I feel about this. I always thought the original way made more sense, but I guess for gameplay reasons, it's whatever. Which brings us to our new addition, Amy. Amy has never, and I mean never, been depicted as having any super form whatsoever. So if we were going by Sonic 3 and Knuckles' original logic, Amy should be exactly like Tails, but since that went out the window of Sonic Mania, Amy has both a super form and a hyper form. Fans have been excited for this, wondering what Super Amy could look like. Will her quills point upwards like Sonic? Will her fur be yellow? Maybe something else like rose gold, or she's exactly the same and just pulses brighter. You know what, in retrospect, I don't know why I expected anything more than this. And I suppose we can assume she'll be the same in Sonic Superstars. When you beat Sonic 2, Amy doesn't even have a super ending. I guess maybe Super Amy can't fly? And of course when we upgrade to Super Emeralds, we get Super Amy again. Huh? No wait, don't be fooled. This is indeed Hyper Amy, she just looks quite literally identical. Actually, there's like no difference at all. You're not faster, there's no sparkles or after image at all like the other hyper forms do. Is there anything that's different? Oh, pressing X allows her to throw infinite hammers. Pressing X allows her to throw infinite hammers? Where are they coming from? Maybe Sonic X was onto something. Wait a minute, when you unlock this, it only now says you can become Super Amy? If this is Super Amy, then what was this? And collecting the Chaos Emeralds and granting the first form doesn't say you can now become Super Amy either. And there's more. Tails, who had a super form renamed to Hyper, adding a new super form in between, had that name removed, and Super returning to Hyper, huh? That's a very weird thing to add and then remove. Seriously, what's the deal with Super Tails and Super Amy? Also, when you bring her into Doomsday Zone, she doesn't have a flying animation, so she just runs in midair. One of these things is not like the others. Knuckles, what the hell you doing? So to recap, what do you get for buying Sonic Origins Plus? 12 Game Gear games, a new playable character in all main games, one of your existing characters is no longer excluded from one of the main games, and you get the previous DLC nobody asked for thrown in as well. And it's a shame they missed the opportunity to fix up problems from the base release, as some design conflicts really frustrate me. It's right there! It's right! Sonic Mania is right there! That's your template! The work has already been done for you! It's right here! But before we go, another update dropped. V2.0.1. The blurred filter is gone. Love the sharp pixels.
I'm so used to the blur filters that this genuinely feels like it's not allowed.
You can toggle mono on Game Gear games. Also, the screen fills more. Not entirely, but it fills more. Super Amy will now have after images, so I guess now you can tell the two forms apart. Missing frames have been restored to the other animations. More things have been tweaked and adjusted throughout the games. You can now pause in Doomsday Zone, could you not before? More physics changes and bug fixes. Entering and leaving the museum doesn't shrink the There's a lot of bugs I never noticed. The game no longer crashes when getting the 6th Chaos Emerald to Sonic and Tails in Sonic 1. Wait, seriously? Extras in Sonic CD now remain permanently unlocked. What they didn't? But according to the cutting room floor, this update introduced new glitches because why wouldn't it? So Tails is just broken now. In some places he will go extremely high in the air, and he can no longer complete Sonic 1 because going underwater crashes the game. Oh my god. In 1, 2, and 3, Boss Rush boots you into the actual game if you're loading a save, and doing the same in CD brings you to the 2011 versions of the main menu. Okay, so expanding on that, I couldn't trigger it for myself, I don't know what criteria I'm missing, but as you can see in the YouTube clip here, instead of taking you to the final boss, it takes you to a glitched version of the instruction manual, which you can exit to the 2011 menu. You can see the leaderboards are grayed out because leaderboards aren't a function in Origins, and the menu's just here, just like the level select in Sonic 1, just sitting unused in the game's code. Removed because I don't know why. It's an extra step. I don't get it. You can also now buy the game physically in stores, which contains an art book with the cartridge, just Origins without Plus. Plus is a download code on a card. Why? Sonic Mania Plus was a physical release. By the way, have you seen the cover here? Sonic's holding a Mega Drive, the console that introduced him to the world. Tails is holding a Game Gear, his first appearance was the 8-bit version of Sonic 2. Amy's holding a CD, her debut was in Sonic CD. And would you believe it, the Rastafarian brothers themselves, it's Knuckles and Knuckles.
What the?
Anyway, is this expansion pack worth it? I don't know, it's entirely up to you. I've complained a lot about both Sonic Origins and Sonic Origins Plus, but I'm still enjoying them all the same. The inclusion of Amy is pretty awesome, and I'm looking forward to Sonic Superstars. Do you think Super Tails and Super Amy should be exclusive to Super Emeralds? Or do you think all playable characters should evenly have Chaos Emerald super forms, even if it's not as cool as Sonic's? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching these classic Sonic videos. I had a blast making them, and I'm glad you've enjoyed them. So, stay tuned, and stay awesome.